Hi, this is the GIFTuber channel. I don't live stream, and I make video content about whatever I want to talk about. So Silent Hill is a franchise with a rocky history. 3 beloved games, a divisive 4th entry, and a whole bunch of other games that are way too much money for me to experience whether they're good or bad. What I'm telling you is I actually haven't played anything but 1, 2, 3 Homecoming, and I just, spark nerded the rest. Now, I know what I'm gonna say. Justin, isn't style study about art stuff? Yes. Yes, it is. And if I say otherwise, I'm lying. Hi, I'm Rufus. What's a Justin? So just like any other creative endeavor, comics, movies, drawing, video games are an art form, with the best ones having a style of their own. And that's kind of why I wanted to do a video on Silent Hill, because Silent Hill is one of those games that just feels so unique in its style, and has a very clear list of things that give it its own stylistic touch. A singular voice, have you? Well, a collective singular voice, because it's made up of a bunch of programmers, artists, sound designers, modelers. Team Silent. So today in this video, I kind of want to break down the finer points of the Silent Hill style. This is not going to be a play-by-play of the games, but more of a straightforward look at what makes Silent Hill Silent Hill. So sit down, eat your pizza in this monster-infested town, and let's delve into old Silent Hill. So have you ever had a dream that you just start out in a strange scenario? You're talking to a friend that you haven't thought about in years, and the conversation is about snakes. You're in the middle of a 1950s diner. You're discussing how strange that is that there's no people here. You go out to the front door and now you're in a mall. Nothing seems to be off about it. You don't even notice it. You just keep going. You climb onto the railing overlooking the first story of the mall, and you climb down the ladder that just happens to be there. And when you get down there, you trip on someone's old school book, and you hit the floor, black out, and then you wake back up in your room. This is what Silent Hill is like. A seamless trek through a multitude of places that feel like they should have people in it, are familiar on some level, but they're empty, and the atmosphere just feels different from real life. The structure of Silent Hill's levels has this seamlessly going from place to place thing to it, or like you're traversing deeper and deeper into an underground facility where each level is a place that you've been to before, but somehow they're connected and they go deeper and deeper. And when you go deeper and deeper, there's less people, and the isolation just gets more and more clear and in your face, eventually screaming at you. Silent Hill 3 comes to mind in this respect. You start in a diner before escaping to the bathroom with a convenient window. You climb out, and you walk down an alleyway that's connected to the innards of the mall. From here you find your way to a train station, where you go deeper and deeper down into it, and you get into a sewer system. This connecting sewer system brings you to a construction site, then to an office building complex that's connected to it. And after that, you find your way to the streets, where you walk on home. There's more to Silent Hill 3 than this, but for the sake of the breakdown, I'm going to go as far as Heather getting home. Point being, each place is familiar, but connected in one seamless trek, with monsters cropping up in 2s and 3s in the wider spaces, but becoming more frequent, even as some of the spaces become more suffocatingly small as you go on. The whole game feels like how the mind puts together dreams, stitching together familiar set pieces and places and scenarios together, and somehow you just don't notice the fact that they're connected in this way. But yet, they are. So this next topic is kind of an offshoot of the last, but I felt like it's so interconnected that it feels right to just put it here. Team Silent's approach to environments is another thing that makes it stick out as far as what makes Silent Hill's style Silent Hill. This and the monsters seem to be all that ever get focused on as far as Silent Hill, and while it is very important to Silent Hill, it's often misused and misunderstood in movies and sometimes even games alike. At least outside of the main 4 games: Silent Hill, Silent Hill 2, Silent Hill 3, and Silent Hill The Room. The environment, as the movies would have you believe, is just a normal town covered in fog that gets increasingly more dilapidated and industrial as you get further into it. That is Silent Hill, but where I think things aren't as captured well in other media is the descent into Silent Hill, or the descent into the character's madness. Silent Hill's story, first and foremost, is a descent into madness, and the dilapidation is meant to reflect that descent, whether it comes about while delving into the town, or if it comes due to the forces surrounding the town coming to you. The madness descent is a major part of Silent Hill and its story, and that story is told through the environments and its ever-changing presence. The dilapidation gets more and more apparent and gets even to a point where the floor is just straight up not there, or becomes ledges over a bottomless abyss. The environment is decaying as you go deeper and deeper into it, or even deeper and deeper into the story, almost mirroring the metaphorical way the character's descending into madness in a sense, and personifying that for the player. The feeling like I'm digging a hole deeper and deeper, and feeling the intensity and the claustrophobia that comes with going too far in, being alone and isolated as I get nearer and nearer to the bottom of a chasm. And then that isolation turns into fear as you realize that the place that was set up to be a lonely, lonely place, you're not alone in. And what you're not alone with is disgusting and horrifying, and it might want to do unspeakable things to you. Which leads me to the second most talked about thing in the Silent Hill discussion: the monsters. This one is probably a no-brainer to Silent Hill fans or horror fans in general, but monsters are kind of a big part of Silent Hill. They are designed in such a way to make you feel put off by how out of place they feel in a desolate, isolating environment. The games build up to how empty and barren these environments are, and puts monsters into them when you least expect it, and when it's already established that the only way out is through. The Shining comes to mind in this respect. That movie not only shows you what the Overlook Hotel is like when it's bustling, it also shows you large stretches of time where it's empty and secluded, and making it very clear that there is no one in this location, but not before introducing scenarios that shouldn't be happening in a place that should be making you feel like you're very much alone in it, but you aren't alone in it. This is one of the things that I think makes Silent Hill so off-putting, is how alone it makes you feel in the beginning, and thus makes the introduction of monsters in it really not sit right. The other part of them is, of course, their symbolic designs. Now, you can totally play these games and never really think about the designs much at all. You just notice a fleshy sheep man over here, or this twitchy nurse lady over there, or this little creepy thing with legs, and that's pretty freaky in itself. But when you dig into the subtext surrounding the game, and into the character's overall fears and anxieties, your thoughts on how one thing looks like this becomes more clear, and the monsters take on a whole new dimension. Pair this with an environment that you are completely alone with, and that there's no one that can help you here. This just makes them feel truly horrific and terrifying when you see them, and it just makes all the enemy encounters just that much more memorable. Paired with the music and the sound, of course. Which leads me into the next section. The sound design, or the lack of for large chunks of the game, are a part of Silent Hill's core identity and style. I mentioned The Shining and its ability to establish isolation. Well, that, like Silent Hill, is due to the lack of sound. There are spans of time where there isn't any music, and all you hear are the sounds of your feet, the hanging noises of walls, and the dead air. Due to a lack of music, these sounds are much, much more apparent and make you realize how truly by yourself. You are in these environments. It's after these long spans of chilling environmental sounds that music is introduced. It just appears as ambient pieces, drones, metal clanks, and sometimes actual pieces of music, pianos, and guitars. Any actual familiar music is few and far between, with a lot of the game utilizing ambient music during monster encounters and when said encounter is just around the corner, or even during major cutscenes and character interactions. But these moments, while not entirely few and far between, come after a long, long section of silence. And with this silence, everything from radio noises, guttural monster noises, and strange, disturbed noises hits your ears so violently that it just gives you this deep pit feeling in your stomach. Team Silent and their composer, sometimes producer, Akira Yamaoka skillfully uses sound at very deliberate times as to make their impact so much more visceral. It's kind of like how you feel when you're trapped in a concert venue with loud blaring music, that once you step outside into a quiet environment, it just sort of hits you like a truck. Or the inverse, a loud jump scare after the music clears away after a few seconds.
How can you sit there and eat pizza?
This skillful use of sound is very much a part of Silent Hill's style, and is why some of Silent Hill's scariest moments hit a lot harder than some jump scare horror does for me. Careful planning before the shocking, disgusting things is what makes horror feel that much more impactful. The last thing I want to discuss is definitely a point of contention for the Silent Hill fanbase, but is something that is a very recognizable part of Silent Hill's DNA: the cheese.
Pizza.
The hammy acting and dialogue has been memed to death, and is something that has been claimed as either a product of its time or a deliberate choice. I slide back and forth on this opinion from time to time, as on one hand, it's early 2000s game dialogue, which has kind of the same discussion surrounding it as old Hollywood acting versus newer naturalistic style acting. It's a whole discussion of bigger acting versus more pauses and more human natural delivery, yada yada yada. It's a discussion that I don't really think will ever truly have an end, but it's a part of Silent Hill. The cheese at times feels like how Kojima uses cheese. It feels goofy at times, but at the same time, when the meat of the story comes in, you're still just as invested as you would be normally. There's moments that feel dated, but there's also moments that feel intentionally goofy as to catch you off guard when characters aren't what they appear to be. Eddie from Silent Hill 2 comes to mind. He comes off as a bumbling, goofy loser barfing in a toilet at first, and the acting is very much played up. But then when the more deranged aspects of his character come back up, it just feels like such a shock. And the acting feels a little bit more real than it did whenever you were approaching him for the very first time. There's points where the acting kind of sounds like goofy of the times dialogue that you would expect out of the 2000s, but other points you can tell that it has some point in rhyme and reason to it all. But at the end of the day, it is something that feels distinctly Silent Hill, and the way that Silent Hill does this sort of stilted, off-kilter delivery can give it an otherworldly vibe, like that of a David Lynch movie, where people don't act 100% like real people. There's enough of a blend of natural and theatrical in their vocal delivery that it messes with your head a bit. And that, mixed in with the isolating world, disgusting monsters, and a suffocating atmosphere, makes for a kind of experience that only Silent Hill can truly give you. Silent Hill is a special series, and I think its whole style and vibe is something that makes it truly stand out amongst a sea of other video games and horror-related media. Many have tried to replicate it, even the company that published it themselves, and it's just something that not many outside of Team Silent have been able to pull off. It's a very unique thing that, if I were to boil it down, it would be that Silent Hill is a descent into a nightmare directed by David Lynch with flourishes of isolation that Stanley Kubrick pulled off oh so well in The Shining. It is truly something special that only a team like Team Silent could cook up. And as far as horror goes, I highly recommend you check out the first 3 games. It is truly a vibe of its own. Alright guys, that's it for me. Subscribe if you want to stay tuned for what I got in the pipeline. I don't know when I'm going to post next, but if you like these sorts of videos, stick around. The door is always open at the Doom Room Bebop. Take care guys.